Those of you who know Julie, I'd like to apologize with this, getting this older, less lovely, certainly less exciting version of what we do. She's been running around the state, and when we spoke about it, she clearly makes the point that the entrepreneurs who've been coming on the bus are really hungry for support. With the economy the way it is, the push on entrepreneurship, starting your own business has been greater than ever. So when he came to speak, I was going to come up here and say, well, what he said, because what you all said, a lot of the consciousness is one of the things we have focused on. What I'd like to do is give you a quick overview of the Maryland Center for Entrepreneurship so you can get a context in which we're doing these things. And the purpose of telling you all this is the kind of support that the total of these supports are what they're looking for. The bus went to DC and Northern Virginia. We work very closely with several of the surrounding counties. As you know, Howard County is kind of in the middle of central Maryland, and work closely with the other entrepreneur centers there to try and share the resources that we have. So the Maryland Center has three legs to the stool. One is the entrepreneurship program that's called ICAT. Julie didn't like it called an incubator because it sounds too much like chickens. She said it's the innovation catalyst is what we have. The second leg is the Howard Tech Council. The Howard Tech Council brings together companies that are not part of the incubator but part of our ecosystem that we support. And the other leg is the Business Resource Center that consists of SCORE, which most of you know are a bunch of old people like me who like to think they know about current business and coach people. The SBTDC, you're aware that now has a T in its name. The T gets from a qualification that each of the SBDCs have to get by showing that they have the programs that support technology. And we have the PTAP program, the technical assistance for government procurement that we do. We also support Activate, which is a program for women who want to start business. With all of this going on, we've changed, it's changed very dramatically under Julie in the last few years. About 17 months ago when she joined, we had a receptionist and it was essentially a real estate deal. I'm sure we'll know what that looks like. Now, the introduction of requirement to be entrepreneurial in nature has changed the makeup of the companies that are resident and the companies that are affiliates, and it's moved very rapidly. The Howard Tech Council, when Chris came just after Julie, Patrick Wynn came just after Julie, and Patrick found 4 companies as part of the Tech Council. He has built that now to 188 companies. I started in April, and we tripled our membership. We now have 78 of those. So we have 266 companies that we impact, hopefully, in some way to help them have their dream become reality and have their reality become a sustaining business. The important thing that I want to get across today is some of the new initiatives we're doing that we think are initiatives that should spread way beyond our particular thing. Most people need their glasses to see, I know. In the Maryland Center for Entrepreneurship, we received a tripling of our budget for 8 new initiatives. These 8 new initiatives we think are fairly unique. They don't come from, they just don't pop right out of Zeus's head all finished. But if you look at some documents like the Aspen Institute's best practices for incubators, they kind of dance around the edge. Cernicall talked about the importance of social entrepreneurship. So I'd like to give you an idea of what these are, because these are new things that we think will be happening for the entire entrepreneurial community, not just in our state, but reaching out to Northern Virginia, DC. Okay, I'm just going to give you a few of them that are particularly important. Okay, the programs that we run, we've expanded our program base in partnership with SBTDC, in partnership with SCORE, in partnership with Howard Community College. We are now offering 15 new programs focusing on what we call the 3 C's, 4 C's, excuse me, we just added a C. You may be familiar with the 7 C's, we have a new C. I'll tell you which one it is. Our 4 C's are counseling that we provide to our companies, contacts, which are really business contacts. The 4th C that was added was community assets. Everybody felt that we're part of the Economic Development Authority, and they provide marketing support, communication support, get press releases for the company. So that is available to companies that we have there. And the last one, which you'll find hard to believe that these companies really need, is cash. And we focus very heavily on getting them ready for it and giving them access to it. So that goes on day to day as the programming of the ICAP program. The new initiatives start with ACT, the Accelerate for Commercialization of Technology. And it looked hard to say, and it was. The program now has two relationships, memorandums of understanding with the Applied Physics Lab and the National Security Agency, where we are supplying the commercialization arm to take their technology and make it into a business. They provide us with the technology. We review it with our Encore group of volunteers for ones they think could be commercial. We plug in an entrepreneur. We provide him with the resources he needs to try and launch that into a sustainable business. We get to review 200 patents a year from a place like APL. They produce about 200 a year. Some of them, of course, are not usable commercially. They have a device I thought would be terrific for one of our companies that I was speaking to. And this company goes into homes and does a mapping of the home to determine whether a senior person can remain home by certain modifications in the home. This business is essentially construction, but he has to carefully lay it out and price it. So he has people taking pictures with a camera now, and then he has to figure out the spaces. With this device, a laser maps out everything, how high the benches are, what the steps are like, what condition it's in. I think it would be a terrific thing for him to have for his people who are actually assessing the sites. I spoke to the inventor and I said, well, what would be the commercial price of this? It's at a production level. He came back and said, well, I can't believe it. He said, well, our prototype here costs $100,000. I said, oh, that must be nice. I said, well, what would be the production level? I said, we could get it down to $60,000. The entire job to make a house safe for seniors is in the $25,000 to $30,000 frame. So clearly, a $60,000 device didn't fit the model. So we reviewed them, and that's what we mean by commercializable, if I could use that term. Personalizable product. That's a product that really has some of the underpinnings and not having been developed. You have a $700 toilet seat. A lot of features, but you can't take it commercial. Okay? So the ACT program is focused on taking technology that's available in some of our financial institutions, some of our research institutions, and some of our universities, which is an important thing for any incubator to embrace the universities and take some of the technology being developed in their research centers and help them commercialize it. Because it may surprise you that the inventors are not always the best people to take something commercial. The next one is equally important, certainly much bigger financially, is the Conscious Venture Lab. It's gone through many iterations of its name, but its objective, it derives from the book Firms of Endearment, and that's built around firms like Whole Foods and Starbucks, of how they provide service to all of their constituents, all their stakeholders. And they can demonstrate that by doing this, you can get a more profitable company. That you can enter the market better, and you can realize greater profits by being a socially conscious company, which, as you heard earlier. We have, the way this works now is we have set up a fund. It's raising about $20 million, and we're about halfway there now. And the fund is administered by a consulting group that has done this before, the Porter Group, and that money will go into these companies that meet the criteria as being socially conscious. The other side of the coin is companies that don't realize they can be socially conscious. We're training them to look at the whole stakeholder community that they support. So the Conscious Venture Lab is very, very important to us. We have what we call SWAT meetings, which is like a SWAT team. We bring our companies before groups of investors, venture capitalists, angel investors, high net worth individuals, bring them in front, and we tell them ahead of time, we'd like to give you a financial pitch. We hopefully have worked with them. Some of them come in, I won't say naked, but then they haven't worked through their pitch. But most of them, we work through the pitch with them, and hopefully they'll get through the meeting unscarred. But the idea there is to beat them up pretty good on what an investor really is looking at. And the hardest point is their value proposition. They can tell you features, functions, and benefits of their products pretty well. What they don't have is a value proposition that's meaningful to an investor. The example I sometimes use for them, and I don't know how good it is, but they seem to understand it, is that when you go buy a car, you're not buying transportation. You go in, if you're a good salesman, a couple comes in, 3 little kids, they're not looking for transportation. They're looking for a cage to put their kids in when they're traveling. Right? So you want to show them the cup holders, the video system. You're not going to bring them right over and say, look at these big disc brakes. They're not buying a car. They're buying a certain kind of transportation. And you have to take a look at it and say, well, that's pretty much what you're looking at. If you just wanted transportation, Mercedes would be out of business, right? And who would buy a car for that much money when we have pretty reliable cars from each of us? And they have to understand that it's a very personal thing. The person you're selling to, whether you're selling to a financial person or an actual customer for your product, you're selling to a person. You're not selling to an organization. And what that person needs, you have to figure out. We work with them on a financial standpoint is what is an investor looking for in this? You know, you tell them how jazzy it is, that you have IP. So who's going to buy it? Do they have money to pay for it? And how fast can you ramp up? You know, will it be sustainable? What are you going to do when you need your second round? The other thing we talk about is the entrepreneur's problems along the way. And an entrepreneur really, they have a plan. My plan is I'm going to put gas in the car and I'm going to drive to Chicago. Well, they're 10 miles down the road, they're going to do a detour. They can take the detour, they run to a pothole, they get a flat tire. Suddenly they're out of gas, right? And they haven't gotten where they want to be. The entrepreneur has to figure out how to fix the tire, avoid the detour, and get the additional gas for his car. And they got to fix all these. That's what the program's working on. Now, the Ventures Capital Lab is to take that in the context of being socially conscious. The other two that are important is the Angel Academy. Because the other side of the street is many folks who have the money to invest really don't understand how to be an angel. The companies need advice as much as they need the money. You know, they sometimes get up and they'll make a mistake, and they have it covered. Investors, when they see the mistake, right away, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. They're turned off. Somebody has to ask them, you know, I notice that you really don't have a product ready yet. If you've done software, you know, software's never finished. It's always 90% complete 100% of the time. The only time you ever get software finished is if you fire the program. Done. Right? Whatever I've got, I've got. Because with software, the better is the enemy of the good. It has to get better. Oh, we need this feature, we need that. So the folks have to be talked through the product into it. And that's what the Angel Academy has to help them do. Not just look at them and say, oh, he doesn't know what he's doing. Because many of these are sensational ideas. I tell the people around there, some of you may not even know what I'm going to talk about now, but what I do now is better than Geritol. And many of you don't know what Geritol is. It was one of these things for old folks to take to pep them up again. But it's a great thing to work with them. And the last, and Jan Baum is here, she heads up our 3D printing lab that we're starting up. Not just to do 3D printing, but to educate folks on 3D printing. And it is available how to use it. So see, there's some of the new things that we talk about. We talk to entrepreneurs about it, they're really excited. And so when the title came up of we need a bigger region, it really meant the breadth and depth of what we do should be spread much further, because the bus has clearly indicated there are entrepreneurs all over the state that really need the help. And I tell you, they really appreciate it. It's great working with them, and it's very exciting. Thank you for your time.